Hi, all. Welcome to the Visible Podcast, Episode 1. Today, we're going to be learning about book learnings from the book called Company of One by Paul Jarvis. I am your host, Siddharth Shah. For some context, I work in the Indian VC industry and have started the Visible Podcast to promote knowledge sharing within the Indian ecosystem. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the book called Company of One by Paul Jarvis. This is one of my all time favorite books. To shortly summarize, Company of One teaches us why staying small is the next big thing for businesses. Creating your own company of one will give you independence, income, work life balance, and help you get rid of stress from your life. When we think about a startup or an innovative organization, we immediately think about an Apple or a Google or a Facebook. We think about hundreds or thousands of employees, multiple huge, expansive offices, and super huge scale. And I don't know about you all, but that really makes my startup dreams feel a bit daunting. After all, how will I be able to make or find such a startup to fund, right? But the question we need to ask ourselves is, do we really want to become that big? Is the goal really to have massive scale, or is the goal to have vision to have massive impact? And whose life do you want to impact? Is it your life? Is it other people's? I don't know. That is an answer we have to find, and we need to get over the notion that staying small is unsuccessful. You can still be small and rake in millions. So what do we look to learn from this book? In this book, we learn how to take a side hustle into a sustainable small business, how to scale without a lot of money, how to retain your satisfaction and have a sense of work life balance. So I'm going to be summarizing it into short bullet points. Number 1, rejecting growth for the sake of it. Number 2, not quitting your job just yet, but developing your company of one out of a side gig. Number 3, turning work into passion or passion into work. Number 4, finding a niche and not trying to be everything to everyone. And finally, avoiding spending a lot, variabilizing some expenses, using technology to get a grip, and so on. So now let's start with point number 1, rejecting growth for the sake of it. We've seen a lot of companies growing, right? And it's just that we feel that a startup or a company has to grow to survive. But the learning is, we should not grow because it's cool or because everyone else is growing. We should not grow because we want to attract funding and we want to become the next big thing. There are a lot of these new and hot big things that are making an astonishing amount of losses. The focus here should be to grow and to become profitable. I think unit economics is the number one thing that everyone should think about. When I think unit economics, I think how to attain positive unit economics and getting exponential growth without positive unit economics. It's a lot of companies these days do not really focus on that, and it's like selling to everyone and in turn paying them to buy your product or service. For example, selling 100 units for $1,000 but spending 130 on every single sale to make and distribute. How does that even make sense? You want to grow, but you want to keep an eye on the bottom line. Same goes for founders who want to add products, right? Don't care what a VC thinks, man. Don't care about all the growth. Just look for how will that growth translate into your P&L and how will that add to your bottom line. Number 2, not quitting your job just yet and developing your company of one out of a side gig. I'll give you a very small example that is not from the book but is very similar to what Paul has explained. We all know stand-up comedian Rohan Joshi from AIB fame. He used to be a journalist, I think, in the early 2010s, and he didn't really like it. He was a performer in school, and he really wanted to be on stage. So he went on stage, he tried doing some stand-up comedy, and he liked it. He liked it and started doing it once a month, once a week, twice a week, thrice a week, and he liked it. He liked it, others liked him, and this grew until the side gig started paying probably more than what his steady day job paid him. And then he quit the job. Then he toured all around, he performed all around, he formed a creative agency, and so on and so forth. But the point here is that you need your side gig to pay you more than your day job. That is when you can take the leap of faith, right? You have to take the leap of faith when you can afford to take one. For founders who want to start new, you can just apply the same principles, right? There's no shame in starting small. You can always grow later if you want to and when you can. So growth is not a constraint, right? Starting small is one of the biggest steps that you can take in order to be sustainable. So don't quit a job just yet. Develop your side hustle and make sure it grows into something meaningful before you actually go all in. Next, turning work into passion or passion into work. Now this is a tricky one. Some say that you should take your work and make it into your passion. Some say that you should take passion into work. In this book, Paul Jarvis does not recommend taking your passion into work, but who cares what everyone thinks, right? You do you. If you like creative, you like reading, you like writing, you like performing arts, so find a way to take it and make it into a side gig. If you like cricket or football, well, not everyone can be a Sachin or a Ronaldo, right? But if you really like it, if you have a decent enough knowledge, if you have the skills, right, you can take those, and can't you just turn it into something commercial? Start a sports blog, start a podcast, use Zoom or Instagram or WhatsApp to provide sports coaching to little kids. Make videos of drills about nutrition, about practicing form, about fitness. Sell sports kits for all I care, right? But take this passion and turn it into something commercial. But also understand that passion is not enough. The passion needs to have an audience, and the audience needs to pay you. You have to understand that not every passion will turn into profits, and that's a very important learning that you take from this. When a passion does not give you profits, the passion turns into a loathe session where you start hating the thing that you enjoyed the most. So it's very important to not let your passion deteriorate. It's important to start small, enjoy what you like, finesse your skill, slowly grow it. Think if you can find an audience, if you can find someone who wants to pay you from that audience, and then grow it into something meaningful. Next, find a niche. Don't be everything to everyone. Man, you're not Amazon. Nobody is. Only Amazon is Amazon, right? So let's not become everything to everyone. There's no point in doing that. Now let's take an example of Starbucks. Starbucks was founded in 1970s, early 1970s, and they had a view to become the neighborhood boutique coffee shop, and they were successful. Everyone and their uncle wanted to go to Starbucks, and they grew. But by early 2000s, I think, they had exploded, and they were into all sorts of shit. At that point, they had to close, I think, about 1,000 stores, and that's not good, right? It's negative publicity. It's an effect on your P&L. It's an effect on your sentiment. Now, I associate Starbucks with a place where you can go and read a book. You can enjoy uninterrupted thoughts with yourself for a long period of time. You can enjoy some coffee. You can meet a long lost friend and just catch up, right? I don't want to have a sandwich at Starbucks. I really don't want to have any consumables. I just want to have a decent enough time with myself and my thoughts. If I start becoming a subway at Starbucks, I'm not really interested in going there. So it's very essential to find yourself a niche, and to remember that the niche need not be a very small niche. It's a niche big enough so that you can have a audience, you can have some sort of a competition as well, because competition is good, but not a wide space where you just don't know what you're doing. So it's very important to not try to be everything to everyone. Lastly, avoid spending a lot. Use technology to reduce your time, your costs. Try to variabilize some of your expenses. There is a very good example in this book about a contractor in the US. He used to work out of his outhouse, and he had a post-it on his laptop or a PC where it was written overheads equal death. And I have never heard or read something that is more resonating with me at the moment, right? If I ask anyone to visualize what they'll need to start their own business, people will think about an office, fancy clothes, a fancy printer, some visiting cards, uh, maybe a nice artwork. But do you really need all of that to start your operations, right? You just need to make money, man. Do you really need to have an e-commerce website to sell things? Can't you start off WhatsApp or Instagram? Do you really need those 30-40 bucks to spend on a Shopify store? Mind you, that'll add to about 500 in a year. So do you need to spend 500 bucks just to be able to sell? No, not at the moment. When you actually rake in the money, you can always get it. If you think that you need large investments to start, then you're not thinking on first principles. Your plan is too grand for you. Let's take an example. I'm in the VC field and I'm an associate at a family office. 5-10 years down the line, I might want to start my own VC fund. Now, what would I need? Nothing. I can run a one-person VC fund. I don't need a fancy office. I don't need 3-4 associates running around. I don't need to use an in-house counsel. I can use free Google Sheet templates to create and populate my deal flow. I can create Google Forms for prospective founders to fill in their data about their startups. I can filter that to match my screen. Boom, there goes the requirement of an associate. I can use technology to do my work for free. I can use free or minimally paid contract management services to draft my term sheets or my SHAs. I can get my shares dematerialized so that I can access the repository online. I do not need to spend my management fee to earn some money, but I can make profits at that time, right? The more you think you need to spend on setup, the more time you are spending not earning. The more time you spend money on establishing something is the time lost of not making an income. The greater the upfront costs, the greater the revenue you'll need to just break even. We're not even talking about profits here. It's just a break even. Just start something. We all know the concept of an MVP. Start, get the ball rolling. Don't have grand launches. You're not Elon Musk, right? You can just start off a crappy place. You can start off a old laptop. You can start from dial-up internet. You don't need those fancy gigs. You don't need that. So how do I summarize what have we learned? A, small companies can purposefully stay small and still make profits. B, they can do so by having a high degree of freedom and independence. C, freelancing opportunities can turn into sustainable small businesses if one can leverage the use of technology, eliminate or variabilize some expenses, and get rid of all those non-essential expenses. And D, challenging growth does not mean lowering profits. It just means you are protecting the profit in a way you don't have to grow. That's all about Company of One. If you like the podcast, please share your feedback, and I will get back to you with a new review soon. Thanks.